Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a review of the recent earnings announcement that came out for Micron Technology, and I'm also going to be looking at the intrinsic value of Micron Technology to see if at the current share price of $53 per share to see if it presents a good buying opportunity from a value investing perspective. And Micron Technology, for those who might be newer to my channel, is a stock that I covered in another one of my videos in the past. And we talked about how the popular investor Monish Pabrai, who's a very successful investor, he recently bought into shares of Micron Technology. So he thinks that Micron is going to go up in the near to long-term future. And so in this video, we're just going to figure out why that is and then also look into their earnings report. And we can see actually from their stock price here that they've tumbled quite a bit over the last year by about 30%. They're down about 30% over the last 3 months and about 27% over the last month. So, I mean, at the start of this month, they were trading at about $75 per share, and now they're trading at $53 per share, but they are still up about 77% over the last 5 years. They're trading at a PE of about 6 times earnings with a market cap of about $60 billion. And for those who might not know, Micron Technologies, basically what they do is they're basically an industry leader in memory storage solutions. So they basically help companies manage their data and then help them make advancements in AI as well as in some 5G applications. So they're primarily just selling like hardware and like RAM storage, different solutions like that to try to produce revenues that way. And we can also see right here, this is a compilation of their financial statements from their earnings report, their earnings release for the third quarter of fiscal year 2022. And we can see right here from their income statement that their revenue for the third quarter of 2022 came out to be about $8.64 billion, which is up year over year from about $7.42 billion in the third quarter of 2021. And then if I scroll down a little bit here, we can see that their net income for the third quarter came out to be about $2.6 billion, which is up from $1.7 billion. So that is a pretty substantial increase year over year. And their gross profit margin is sitting at a comfortable 46.7%. And then for their earnings per share, it came out to about $2.34 for their diluted earnings per share. And if I scroll down here, we can see for their balance sheet that their total assets have been expanding over the last quarter and since the end of their last fiscal year in 2021. We can see they ended out the third quarter with $65 billion worth of total assets, which is up from $63 billion in the last quarter and up from $58 billion in the end of fiscal year 2021. And then we can see that from their balance sheet that the majority of their business is financed by equity, which is pretty good because it means that they're not going to be using up their cash flow to pay down interest payments on debt or things like that that other companies might have to deal with. We can see that for the third quarter, they ended off with total liabilities of about $16 billion and a total equity of about $49 billion. And their total equity has been increasing over time here, as we can see, from $43 billion to $47 billion to now $49 billion. And that's been primarily due to an increase in retained earnings, which is a really good sign for a company because obviously if their total equity is increasing due to them issuing more stock, then that's just going to lead to more dilution for current and prior shareholders. But in Micron's case, we can see that that's not actually the case. The reason why their total equity is increasing is because of an increase in retained earnings from cash flow from a healthy operating business. And then lastly, before I get into the discounted cash flow model, we can see their consolidated statement of cash flows here. Their cash flows from operating activities came out to be about $3.84 billion, or it actually right here, as we can see, came out to be about $11.4 billion for June 2nd, 2022. And then for the 9 months ended June 2nd, 2022. And then for the 9 months ended June 3rd, 2021, their net cash provided by operating activities was $8.5 billion. And then obviously, like I just said, of this $11.4 billion, the $3.84 billion of this operating cash flow came just from the third quarter of 2022. We can also see if I scroll down here that they invested pretty heavily into CapEx here, property, plant, equipment of about $8.4 billion. So that's where most of their investing activities came from. And on top of that, we can see from their financing activities that they return a lot of value to their shareholders in Micron Technology stock. We can see that they made some repayments of debt of about $2 billion, but they also repurchased up to $1.6 billion in the last 9 months of their common stock as a part of their repurchase program. And I believe that of this $1.6 billion, about $981 million of that $1.6 billion was repurchased in the third quarter of their fiscal year 2022. So that's about 13.8 million shares that they repurchased in one quarter. And on top of that, Micron also pays a dividend, as we can see right here. And they actually the board of directors declared an 11 cents per share dividend on June 30th recently. So it's not that much, but considering the fact that they're both providing dividends, reinvesting into their company, and repurchasing shares of common stock, they're definitely returning a lot of value back to their shareholders. And so net cash used in financing activities for the 9 months ended in this third quarter came out to be about 2.1 billion, which is up from down, technically speaking, since it's net cash used, is down from $430 million in the first quarter, or in the 9 months ended 2021. And then we can see right here that the net increase in their cash was about $1.4 billion. So they started off with about 7.8 billion, and now they have about $9.2 billion of cash and cash equivalents, and then restricted cash at the end of the period. And lastly, to end off the video, what I'm going to do is figure out what the intrinsic value of Micron Technologies is. And I've already gone ahead and done a few calculations before the start of the video here. Most of these metrics I got from Yahoo Finance. So basically the analysts from Yahoo Finance are estimating that Micron is going to grow at a rate of close to 30% compounded annually for the next 5 years. And so for the next 5 years after that, I was just conservative and I left it at a 14% compounded growth rate annually. And all of this, keep in mind, I'm aiming for a 10% return per year for my investment for this analysis here. And then the free cash flow for Micron for 2021, which is when this analysis is starting, so it's year one, was about $2.4 billion. They're currently sitting on about $2.5 billion of net cash on their balance sheet after taking into account their debt, and they have about 1.12 billion shares outstanding. And so after taking in all these metrics, we can see that their intrinsic value per share is estimated to be about $83 per share, with a 30% margin of safety of $58 per share and a 50% margin of safety of $41 per share. And also keep in mind that this free cash flow metric, I got this from their 2021 annual report, but if we actually look at the trailing 12 months for Micron Technologies, which I don't really have it up right now, but it's very easy to get from different stock scanners like TradingView, for example, they show that the trailing 12 months for the free cash flow for Micron is actually closer to about $4.5 billion. So if we were to start off our analysis with that free cash flow metric, then the intrinsic value per share would increase pretty substantially, and that would put Micron at even more of a buying opportunity. So I'm not even taking into account the trailing 12 months free cash flow. I'm only using the free cash flow from their year ended in 2021, which is obviously an even more conservative estimate here. So the intrinsic value per share that I estimated here might actually be even lower than what it actually is. But obviously with models like this, they're not perfect, so it really depends on the values that someone puts into them. But based on that, the intrinsic value per share is estimated to be about $83 per share. And compared to their current share price, that means that Micron is potentially trading at a bit of a buying opportunity here, since they're trading at $53 per share. So they're trading at less than a 30% margin of safety, which is pretty good. That's something that Warren Buffett and other successful value investors really try to find, is buying opportunities where they're buying not only at intrinsic value per share, but below intrinsic value per share, just to be even more conservative and safe with their investments. And then on top of that, I also did a competitor analysis here on the right to see where Micron Technologies ranks up against their competitors in their industry. Their main competitors, or their main successful competitors, are Intel and Seagate. And we can see that Micron is sort of in the middle of the pack with their profit margins. We can see Intel is leading the pack with 55% with a net profit margin of 25%. Micron is sitting at a 37% gross profit margin with a 21% net profit margin. And then Seagate, which is another company that works with data and storage, whose stock price has also increased pretty good over the last 5 years. Their gross profit margin is about 27% with a net profit margin of 12%. And then with the return on assets, which basically shows how efficiently a business is using their assets to get net profit, we can see Micron is unfortunately not beating out Intel or Seagate, so they are lacking behind in terms of return on assets. But that being said, as we can see right here, according to this analysis, their stock price is trading well below intrinsic value per share. So in an analysis like this, it's sort of like taking the good with the bad in this situation, I guess. But I would definitely love to know what everybody watching this video thinks. Do you guys think that Micron Technology is a buying opportunity at the current share price? And are you guys going to be buying into Micron? Definitely let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see everyone in the next one.